Bonjour, everybody. Hi. I should say bonjour, peeps. Hi. Welcome to Star Nation's organization's main. I'm sorry, wrong one. We're nature adventures tonight. Whoops. I'm going to bring my co-host on. This is Minnie Kansman.
Hi, everyone.
I was in the wrong show. It's just kind of like a rote thing, I do it every morning. And so it's like you get on the camera and it just kind of pops out of your mouth. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to Nature Adventures. Do we have an adventure for you tonight? It's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Let me tell you, Minnie and I have been steeped in the memories of our trips to Ireland and looking at all those pictures. Oh my gosh. All right. We've got people in the house. We've got Christine, our sister. Hey, you. Thanks for being here. And Elise is here too. Hey, Elise. Thank you for being with us. We're going to show our names just in case there's a few people who might not know us. We'll do that for a little bit. And so, Minnie, this show we've been looking forward to. One of the things that I think some of the people who actually read the magazine know this, is that you take gorgeous pictures of every place that you go, right? And you share them, especially like, I know you're in Colorado and you've been sharing some really gorgeous pictures of where you're staying and of your children and their spouses and that sort of thing. So when you had the idea for this particular show, because when you contacted me and said, do you think maybe we should do this one? And I was going, yes, yes. How did you select, out of all the pictures that you have of Ireland, how did you select the ones for us tonight?
Well, I knew the show, I titled the show Touching the Sacred. And what it means to touch sacred ground. So I just went to the places where I felt what happened, and I'll share my stories tonight, was I was on sacred ground and then I was called to do ceremony. I wasn't planning on doing ceremony, but because I was there and I felt the energy of the place, I needed to do ceremony. So very impromptu ceremonies that were created on two of the sites. And then one that we had both been together doing ceremony and sacred site, I thought, well, that's perfect. And the reason, Ireland is because you and I have had those experiences there of ceremony and sacred ground. So it was perfect.
Absolutely. And, I think is that I take pictures and I forget to post them. I've even forgotten to download them. So I am not the go-to person for pictures. Elise is saying she's also a photographer.
Cool.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, very cool.
Thank you, Elise.
Yeah, before we get too far into the stories, what I'm going to do very quickly here is I am going to share the show. And I forgot to turn off the house phone. So it's ringing in the background. All right, I just have to find Nature Adventures. There we go. And then I'm going to like and then share once it comes up. It is Mercury retrograde, right? Adventures?
Still is. Almost done. Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't it the 18th? Or tomorrow even, maybe?
It actually goes direct on the 19th. I specifically asked that question to Julie Hedges the other day on the morning show, because I said, we need to know when that goes direct. All right, so I'm doing my news feed right now. I'm going to say we are live streaming. And please join us.
Don't y'all love this perfect triangle behind me? The window of the A-frame house. I'm up on the second floor, and I'm in a pyramid power here.
In sacred geometry, that is a tetrahedron, right? And it is with the apex up like that, it is pointing to the sky. So it's the male energy and grandfather sky. Just so you know.
Yes. And coming in, I can feel it.
Yeah. Beam me in. All right.
It has been interesting living in an A-frame house. I've never spent time in an A-frame, so it feels really good.
Yeah. How many bedrooms does it have?
It has 3. The one loft where I am upstairs, and then 2 down. But the sides of downstairs, the walls are straight, so it's only A-frame, and then it's on a square. So,
well, that's cool.
So
to find a place like that out in nature to do this, right? To have
it's beautiful.
Yeah. All right. So your ceremonies that you had in Ireland, many of them were impromptu, right? They were organic in nature.
Yes.
We in the trip that we were on together, we had one ceremony that was planned.
Correct.
Yeah. And at one of my
and Mystic Travel asked you to facilitate that ceremony, if you remember.
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you had been there before and you knew the energy because you had already connected. So
yeah, I think that was
why you were.
I think that was my third trip. My third trip up to Lough Crew. The first time I was there, I didn't know nothing. I think it was in I think it was in 2006 or 2007. No, it wasn't. Because we moved here in 2006, so it had to have been in maybe 2004, 2005 was the first time I was there. Yep. And my friend from near Dublin, Phil, she says to me, what would you like to do while you're here? And she thought it was going to be the real touristy kind of stuff, like around in Dublin and all
Blarney Stone.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. And so I said, well, I was looking at a couple of things online, and I don't know where they are at. I don't even know if it's possible, but here are 2 of them I'd really like to do. One was Lough Crew, and the other one was Newgrange.
Newgrange, yeah.
And so, I've been to both of those a few times. Yeah. So when we did the ceremony up on Lough Crew, to be able to connect to that mountain in that way, right? And for our audience, Lough Crew is a very is one of the higher points in that particular county, and I can't remember which county it's in. It's not Kerry.
I wrote an article on it, but I'm not remembering.
Yeah, I don't remember it either. But anyway, when you're there, and if it's clear out, you can see like 5 different counties, and if you face in a certain direction, you can actually see all the way to the ocean. It's that high elevation in that particular area. And so, there's lots of stories that go with these places, right? The myths and legends kinds of stuff. And in this particular one, it has to do with giants. And one of the goddesses. And so anyway, that's where all those stones came from. And it is a cairn. It was a burial place. As people going into that cairn, we only can see a portion of it. There's much more of it there that we don't have access to.
Did you get the picture of that?
Yes. You want to see that one? Hang on. Let me scroll through them. All right. So we got a few pictures. Here's one of them. This is from a little bit of a distance. So what you're looking at is that mound that you're seeing there is actually where the cairn is. And a cairn is a burial site. And so we're waiting to go in. It's so small. In there that you can only send a few people in, and it's dark, right? It's really, really dark.
Yeah. Yeah. We had flashlights, which helped.
Yeah.
But I was trying to take photographs in there, and it was tricky. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I know one. I don't even remember her name. And the very first time I met Amantha and went up there with Amantha, and her group, there was a professional photographer with us, and she had a really great camera with a great flash. And I know that she was taking some pictures in there. Unfortunately, I've never actually seen those. So, yeah, they must have turned out good though, because she spent a lot of time in there. In fact, when we rotated in and out, many of us, allowed her extra time in there. And so we just formed another group because I can't remember, like only like 4 or 5 people can go
five
in.
is what I remember. Yeah.
Go in at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool stuff. See, even with the memories, it's like, let's go. I want to go.
I know. it would be so wonderful to spend time in there to meditate. I remember it felt really good in there, and I wanted to stay a lot longer than I could. Yeah.
Yeah. Nancy Kendrick's here. Hi, Nancy. Thanks you're
Hi.
here. And Rob Kendall's here too. Hey,
and
Rob.
Rob's here too.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us. Yeah. And so we have, we have so many pictures. I want to make sure that here's another one. Minnie, and as we were loading up pictures, I realized I had a couple from the magazine, from your
good.
So we have a couple.
Article. Yeah, I did an article probably last year sometime.
Yeah. Yeah. And so here's another one of the front entrance with us. And let me check. I think we have yep, this is one of you with it in the background. Right?
I've already been in. I was in this really dreamy place after I came out. We had done ceremony already too. We had done ceremony probably about where those people are standing, or a little forward more. Oh no, we were in front of the hag's chair.
Yeah, we were I believe in the north end of the of the Karen. Yeah, and
you can kind of see I was like a little meditating there.
That's my meditation look.
Yeah. Well, I actually laid on the ground. I mean, oh, there you are.
Here I am. This is this is
earlier.
This is I think from 2010. If I remember right. 2010. And the entrance place, the doorway, as you can see, has a bars across it, and so there is a caretaker. It's the stewards, let's put it that way, of it.
Yeah.
The government, and I believe it's the local government and also the Ireland as a country government, because it's one of their historical sites. Yeah. So, let's talk a little bit about that ceremony, because Ireland is a very rainy place. It's a very wet place.
Yes,
it is an island.
Yes, we know that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it especially up there on Lough Crew, because it's so high, it gets very windy. And so even though it might be warm near the base, when you get up there, the temperature could drop because of the wind. Not so much because it's colder. It's just the wind chill. And when we arrived to start the ceremony, I remember because I had my drum, and Jan had her rattle, and I think there was another person who had a drum, if I remember right. Anyway, I had asked for people, one to each of them to stand in a certain direction of the 4 directions, to hold that direction, and I believe they were 2 men and 2 women, if I remember right. Mm-hmm. And we called to the directions, and oh my God, it felt to me, of course, that mountain is alive, but as we're calling to the directions, I could feel her trembling, and it's like they're actually paying attention. They're paying attention to what's going on here.
They understand. They know. They can see and feel and hear. Yeah.
Yes. And at one point, we also had we called in the star beings that came in from the north, and once they arrived, it took the vibration up a couple of notches, and what the ceremony that usually happens at Lough Crew is that the oldest woman is the one who leads the group up the mountain, and we walk at her pace. And so nobody walks in front of her. She might have some help on the sides of her, but we walk at her pace, single file, quiet up the hill. And I noticed that this time around they actually had markers on like a trail kind of thing, because you're literally walking through a sheep's pasture. And so as we walk up at her pace, there is it's a stone chair. It's huge, slabs of stone, and it's called the hag's chair or the Krelak chair. And the oldest woman gets helped up onto it, and the rest of us, what we do is we look for a small stone to give to the elder, and she holds it in her hand and waits for a message. And so she's listening to spirit and giving the person a message. And we don't keep the stones. We return them back to Grandmother Earth, back to the mountain. And if I remember right, that was Marcia was our.
I am trying to remember her name. She's, I'm sorry, it's gone. Diane's cousin. I don't.
Yeah, I know her first name is Marcia. I don't recall her last name.
Marcia. Okay.
Yeah, and so the guys helped her, and Marcia's just this little lady, and they helped her up onto the stone chair. And I remember people waiting their turn and being, standing in the quiet and feeling the nature around them and feeling the ancestors, because a lot of people on that trip had Irish ancestry or Celtic ancestry.
Right.
Yeah. So, that particular ceremony, there was some planning to it. But once you get there, it's you kind of go with the flow.
Yeah.
You kind of go with the flow.
Yeah, kind of takes over.
Yeah. So that's it's one of my favorite places, Lough Crew. Where do you want to go next?
How about the St. Stephen's Well?
Okay. And that's the one
that's in Glendale,
right? That's
yes.
the one with the ribbon.
Well, the well, right? But you have the well picture. I would show the well. Do you have the well picture? Green. It's all very green. Or you can do the ribbon picture. I can share from the ribbon picture.
Okay.
This is in Glendalough, Ireland, which is south of the well's often to the left in that very dark corner. You can kind of see the start of it. This is in Glendalough, and it's a national forest park, heritage site, about an hour out of Dublin. So if you ever go into Dublin, make sure you take a trip down there. It is beautiful, a beautiful old growth forest. And this was my very first sacred well in Ireland. And my husband and I were here on a trip. This wasn't with a group. This was the year before. And he had business in Dublin, and I talked him into coming down to Glendalough because that was part of our agenda for the trip next year. And I knew there was a well somewhere on this land. I didn't know where. They don't advertise it, really. So what I did, I found it. I was in the bookstore and someone had written a book about Glendalough, and inside there was like a little map and it showed where the well was, kind of in a little sketch drawing. And I went, okay, I'm going to go search over in that area. And so I went over, and I mean, we're talking a path through the grass that maybe two people had walked through before, not a trail, not a worn path at all, but just like a deer trail. I found it. And I get down there and there's all these ribbons and things hanging in the trees all around. So I knew that's how you know you're at a sacred well. You look for the ribbons. Because what people do is they come to pray at the well, and they're usually, you know, a lot of times they're asking for healing for themselves or for someone, or they're just asking for just for their prayers to be heard from the goddess in the well. And they bring ribbons, or oh my gosh, there were stuffed animals, there were photos of people, people put coins in the well. There's all kinds of offerings. But I didn't have anything. Again, I'm just finding this well. I don't even like understand about the ribbons or anything yet. You know, I'm at the well and I realized I should have brought something and I don't have anything. And I even looked through my backpack because people had left shoelaces and torn pieces of fabric. You know, they got desperate. But I really didn't have any clothing I wanted to rip up, and I didn't have anything. And so I just said, okay, I'm just going to sit here by the well in the grass. And it's right next to this beautiful river that sounds amazing, you know, the babbling brook. And I sat there, and I'm in the midst of all this tall green grass. And I'm looking at the grass and I'm touching it because that's what I always do. And I'm thinking, they used to make these Bridget cross things out of grass, didn't they? Do I know how to make one of those? I made one a long time ago. Do I remember? So I just started playing with the grass. And I went, it's something like this. And I ended up making just a very small, you know, simple St. Bridget's cross as my offering. And there it is on the tree. I took a picture of it. But that was, you know, that impromptu ceremony that I just had to give something. And, you know, oftentimes I'll give a piece of my hair if I don't have anything, but I wanted to give more than that. And so I tuned into the land, and it kind of just really told me what to do. You know, it really told me, why don't you make this? You've got the grass right here. And your muscle memory knows how to make this. So. So that was a beautiful experience for me at my first sacred well, and it was so much fun to take the group back of what did we have on that trip, like 23 or 24, take them back there, and I knew where the well was now, which was helpful, you know. So I took whoever wanted to the well, and several people did their own little ceremonies there. And I had, of course, shared with the group to bring ribbons and such for all our sacred wells in Ireland, you know.
Right.
But that's what you do. You make do with, you know, what you have.
You know, and
what did you think? What did you think of the well, Neshi?
Well, you know, it's off the beaten path, that's for sure. And if you didn't even know it was there, you'd walk right by it. You wouldn't even and
it's invisible, kind of.
Yeah. So I've been to several sacred wells, and this one was the energy there was much quieter. I think it's because there's not a lot of foot traffic that goes through there. It's not that there aren't people who go there. There's certainly many people, because if you look at all the ribbons and stuff there, but it's quieter there. And you know, and I always have tobacco with me, and so that was my offering. And I did put it in the well. There's a certain thing that you do to be able to do that. And I'm going to talk about that in the next picture. But did an impromptu ceremony at that particular well, and at the river, actually. And it was a private ceremony, and it was impromptu because there was a healing that was needed, and so I helped facilitate that, and so it was a special moment, you know. It's beautiful there. And for it to be just outside of Dublin is, because it's such a big and busy city.
Yeah, it's so different there.
All right, so what I'm going to do is, while we're on wells, I would like to show the one that I have about a well. All right, so here we go. This is a Bridget well. There are many Bridget wells in Ireland, and this is the one that
pretty.
took us to.
Oh, look at all the figurines. Yeah.
And so you can see that there's a lot of offerings that are left. And what you can't see in this frame is, to the left is a huge tree. And that huge tree has all kinds of ribbons and yarn and necklaces and things hanging from the tree. And around the tree, around the base of the tree, there's got to be probably a good foot or more of offerings left on the ground near the tree.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it's one of the major Bridget wells. In fact, when you walk in, it's quite a ways from where we had to park the bus. And there was this stone pillar, sort of, and on the top of it, you could see that some people were making the sign of the cross, but really it looked more like, I don't know. I mean, this is hundreds and hundreds of years old. And so how many people have gone through there to put the sign of the cross on there, right? And so it really looked like more like, almost like there's a Native American design where it shows the movement of the medicine wheel, and that's the one Nazi Germany took. So it looks like
right.
But so many people had been doing this on the stone that it was quite a deep indent, and you can almost see the movement of it, right? So we walk in, and there was we did do a ceremony there. If you wanted to, you could leave something there. If you were asking for a healing for yourself or someone else, leaving prayers for people there. And really the ribbons and the yarn are really about the nature spirits, the fairies. And and in this particular well, you could actually, what they do is they spin the water clockwise with their hand 3 times. And then they take some of the water and then they bless themselves. However you bless yourself. You could just do the crown chakra. You could do, if you're Catholic, you're going to do, the cross. Some people took some and just put it on their heart. And so each person had a chance to go down and do this at the well, at this Bridget's well. And it's a very serene place where so many people go. It's kind of a little different in a way. But that's Bridget's well, one of them anyway. I think that is, I'm just going to scroll through the pictures. We have so many. Make sure. Okay.
Well, and that's part about what it makes it sacred is so many people have gone there holding it sacred.
Yes.
Seeing it as sacred.
Yes.
It holds that energy of reverence.
Right.
Over and over and over again. Right.
And it's generations and generations.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have a few more people in the chat. Susan.
Yeah, I saw that. Rochelle
listening. And hello, Rochelle. I'm glad you're here. Yeah. And so the other thing that now see, I didn't lead a ceremony at that particular well, but I was a participant in a ceremony. Amantha led the ceremony, and she was the first one at the well to show us how to do this. And so it goes back very, very far. before Bridget was sainted, and she was an Irish goddess, part of the Tuatha Dé Danann, and so she. That's why there's so many wells about her in Ireland. Almost every county has one. All right, so where do you want to go next in Ireland?
Well, in Glendalough, the other ceremony that impromptu came to me on that same trip was at Lady Church. So you could show that photo.
That's the one, right?
So, yeah, in Glendalough, there's a beautiful, huge cemetery with the stone tower, like you see in the background, and the cemetery is over there with that stone tower and remains of some beautiful chapels, churches over there. Lots of Celtic crosses. It's a very big ceremony. You can't really see it through the field here. But that was a whole city. That was the first city of Glendalough, was a walled city with the cemeteries and the churches and all of the village. And outside of the city was a church. And I noticed this right away. When I was in this cemetery, I noticed this ruins of a church, like far away, and it caught my eye. And I wondered what that was and why is it way over there where everything else is over here. I'm very curious. And so again, I think it's that little guidebook in the gift shop that I found out, because it wasn't on the main, you're given a map for these places of things. Of course, the well's not on there, like I said. But this church wasn't on there either. But in this little guidebook in the bookstore, there was. So, look for what other people have written about places. It's usually helpful than what the people there want you to know. Because they obviously really didn't want people to go to this church. Right. Because I found out because of how difficult it was to get there. But I was bound and determined. Rain went on a hike that day up in the mountains, and I said, I'm staying and I'm getting myself to that church. Come, somehow, whatever high water, I'm getting there, And he knew I would get there because I'm very determined. And I figured out my best path there was through a sheep's field with real sheep, like grazing in it. But there was a gate, so when there's a gate, there's an opening for Minnie, So I walked on this sheep's field, and I don't know sheep well at all. I'm not really a farmer girl. And they took one look at me, and they just ran, like they stampeded away from, like I was the wolf, coming to get them. And I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. They were crazy. But I walked to, so I just hugged it so I wouldn't scare them anymore, because they're very skittish. Worse than horses, really crazy. So I finally went, oh my gosh, found a way in, and then there's this wall and you got to climb over this wall, and I got in. I was like, okay, nobody there. Right. I found the non-tourist place. I knew it was probably this most sacred place because there's no tourists there. Right. And it felt really good. And I was reading a bit about it in that guidebook, that it was the church where the women stayed. The nuns lived here. Only women stayed here outside of the city. And one of the biggest pieces that they did was, there's a burial site there in the woods. And I think some of these tombstones too, maybe. But they're for unbaptized children, stillbirths. Those lost unbaptized children, those lost souls, that the nuns, it was so touching for me in my heart that the nuns would care for these children's souls. And and it's the feminine energy was so strong there. And I went inside, and I found myself a corner near the altar, and I just sat and meditated in the sun, and again created my own. I had brought a little thistle. That's what I use for my offerings in Ireland. I use the thistle seeds, and I think I had some tobacco too, Neshi, on that trip, and a little stone. And I left created my little altar, and I just meditated there and just soaked in that feminine energy. It was love, really just pure and simple and beautiful. And as I'm getting ready to leave, here comes this tour group coming over the wall one at a time. There must have been like 26 of them. And there's a male priest leading this group. And I'm thinking, I wonder what he's going to say about this site. It's just, you're always curious. What's the tour guide going to say about this site? I couldn't get out anyway because 26 people were going over the only way across the wall. So I was just waiting anyway. So I kind of held back and, around the corner and just listened. He talked nothing about the women. He talked nothing about the unborn, babies, unbaptized babies. I mean, it was all historical, how long it had been there, blah, blah, blah. They think the women maybe used this, the nuns, Yeah. But, I kind of knew a lot more from my meditation than what he was sharing. Yeah. But it was really a wonderful accomplishment for me to get there. And then I see where they, because they trampled the grass, 26 people, Yeah. And I see where they came from, and they came through someone's private land. I didn't know, we have such trespassing laws in the States that I didn't know I could actually walk through this gentleman's back of his farm and, his driveway.
Yeah, I don't know. On one of the places when I took Amantha's trip in 2010, that there are trespassing laws in Ireland.
Okay.
He probably had permission from the owner to take tours.
Neshi, my battery's running low, so I'm changing positions in the house, but I'm just going to carry you. Okay.
We're going to go on a tour.
Yeah, because the challenge with older cottages is they don't have 3-prong plugs everywhere in the house.
Well, while you're doing that, we have a message here from Crystal. She says, I appreciate you're sharing this very much. I have this country in my soul and DNA, but do not know I will ever be able to travel there physically. Thank you for taking me on your journey. Aw, you're welcome, Crystal. And we got a bit more too to share with you. And here's Rob Kendall's bit of fun, bit of crack. This is a bit of crack. Take me to the church on time.
Yes.
And when I saw that, Rob, I thought that's the wrong destination. He says wrong island. Yeah, this is in England. And the first time I heard that word crack, actually it was in California. It was when I met my friend Phil, and she says, "Oh, there's always a bit of crack," and I'm going, "I don't do drugs." And she looked at me. She goes,
Right.
I don't either. It's like,
what are you talking about?
So then what are you talking about? And she says, she says that's Gaelic for a bit of fun. A bit of fun. So it's CRAIC, crack, is Gaelic for a bit of fun. The very first time I heard that one. So are you situated, lady?
It looks like I've got enough light. I'm good. Yeah.
Okay, good. All right. So the next one, where I would like to take you is to a mountain. It's a Paps mountain. I think it's near County Kerry, in fact, where Amantha is from. And the Paps mountain is a very special place for a whole bunch of people. It really doesn't even matter the religion. That almost everybody holds this mountain in very, very high esteem. In Ireland, in the more traditional sense, the old Irish, before the Celts, I only learned that from Amantha. This is the land is actually the Great Mother, Anu. And so parts of Ireland, the land itself, are the body parts of the Great Mother. And so these are her breasts. That's what Paps means. When we first knew we were going to be going there, I'm thinking it was like PABST, like in the beer, right? Paps beer.
Like Paps is a ribbon. No,
yep. PAPS, Paps.
Okay.
And so the ancient ones, the old ones, what they saw was it looked like women's breasts, and so they really felt that this was the Great Mother's body. And so it's one of the oldest places in Ireland to go to worship. And when you go there, it is when you have to walk in, you have to walk through a field that I think there was cows in that field. And then down through to get up to where people gather, and it's rather circular, and almost all of the religions, churches, Christian religions, are represented there. So you have a statue of Mother Mary, and yeah, so a lot of people go there. And on the way in, where we're still on the bus, I believe, Amantha was explaining this to us, and she says, sometimes the Great Mother allows us to see her, and other times she does not. And when she doesn't is when the clouds are hanging over the tops of the mountain, and so you don't even know the paps are there, right?
Right.
And so we get there, and it's cloudy. And she's going, oh, she goes, I really wanted to have you experience this. And she says, well, I guess what we're going to do is we're just going to, have a sacred circle here. We held hands. She said a prayer, and she says, I'll let you absorb this on your own, right? So she's going to give us a few minutes. I always travel with a drum. And I took the drum that fits into my backpack, and it has a synthetic drum head, so it keeps its tone, because Ireland is very wet. To take a natural skin drum there, I wouldn't ever be able to use it. Right. I pulled out my drum, and I'm standing there hugging it, looking up at the mountain, and I closed my eyes, and I'm talking to her, and I said, I feel as though you called me here. I've never been here before, but I feel so at home here. And I said, if it's all right, I'd like to drum for you. And I felt a yes. And so I started drumming, nothing in particular. I just started drumming, and how much I loved Grandmother Earth, and how beautiful that place was, and how appreciative, grateful we would be if we could see all of the Great Mother. And as I'm drumming, I've got my eyes closed, and I could feel people coming to stand next to me. And at least I thought there were people. There were beings standing next to me. and pretty soon I could hear somebody gasp. And other people whispering, oh, look. And so I had to open my eyes to see what they were looking at. And the clouds were starting to recede, and we were able to actually see her. And great. Amantha comes over to me, and she puts her arm around my shoulders, and she says, welcome home. Of course, I start crying. And then so what Amantha does is she gets on her knees, and then she's prone on the ground, face down, and supplicant to the Great Mother.
Wow.
And the grass is very wet. And so I thought, okay. So I put my drum away, and I get on the ground. Okay. And I do the same thing. But that was my very first experience, drumming to a mountain. This picture is at the very top of the paps, and from a distance, this is a cairn, actually. And a stone marker. And from a distance, the story goes that it looks like the nipples of the paps of her breasts. And it's only very special people who get to actually go up to the very top. Of course, it's their stewards are, it's a national historical site. and so for Ireland, and so only certain people are allowed to go up there, and yeah. So that was one of those impromptu ones that I'll never forget. Kind of similar to when
Neshi, what's the other marker? What's the other marker?
The other marker is, I believe it's like a geographical marker, because this is a very tall mountain.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think it's geographical, but I'm not sure. That's a good question.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that was the very first time I ever drummed for a mountain. Second time was in Wales. That was something else too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's true. That's another country.
Yeah, that's a different country entirely. I am going to. I checked on the time to make sure that we're doing okay on time, and we are. Let's see. What else do we have? Off crew. I think that's it. That's all the pictures we have. There's so many more places in Ireland that we could. Maybe we'll do another round a different time.
Well, the Hill of Tara.
The Hill of Tara.
We could talk about that. I had an experience there that was, we were with a group for a while. We had a short tour, and then we were off on our own. And Neshi had told me about a fairy tree over the hill, so I had to go find that fairy tree. So I went there, and 2 people were smoking weed under the fairy trees. So I really didn't spend time there. I said, okay, I'm going to go do something else, and then I'll come back. Maybe they'll be gone. Mm-hmm. And someone else had, said, oh, down there in this forest, there's some really magical trees. And so I headed down there, and there was these beautiful, I want to say they were oak trees.
Huge.
I think the European oak trees.
Mm-hmm.
And they were amazing. And I was just in fairyland heaven down there. And I was giving them all kinds of little offerings, little crystals and all the little coals. And, we were having a really good time. But I knew, I had my watch because, had to keep track because I have to get back to the bus because I'm one of the group leaders here, So you really want to be on time. And so darn, I have to pull myself away. So I go back up and I see the fairy tree is open now, So I just spent a little time with the fairy tree. I think I hung a ribbon in the fairy tree. And then I started walking back to the bus. Mm-hmm. Well, I thought I was walking back to the bus. But I was in, fairy time, and I was in fairyland. And I was walking through grass that was about hip high, maybe, waist high, actually. And I'm thinking, well, it's right over this way. And I'm walking to this field, and I'm walking, and I'm very disoriented. I really don't even know where I am. Mm-hmm. I am in a field somewhere in Ireland, hopefully close to the Hill of Tara, but I don't know. And it's time for me to get back on the bus. Mm-hmm. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. So I go back to the fairy tree and I just say, just help me I have to get back to my people. I can't stay here as much as I wanted to, because I really did want to stay. Mm-hmm. But then I was shown to remember you took a right, after you came to the tree, before you came to the tree, you took a right, and then you took I was like, oh yeah, I came that way. Yeah. Showed me back the way I came. Mm-hmm. Got there, the whole bus is waiting for Minnie, I really, the stories about being stolen from the fairies, it's not really stolen. It's just that you get out of time and out of space.
Right.
And I really, was almost there, you guys,
Yeah, they say
might not have found me.
You crossed the veil. The veil.
I did. I definitely did. And it was fun. I mean, I'm really glad I had that experience, but at the time it was kind of scary, it was kind of
panic.
Like because there were just fields everywhere. It wasn't like there was a city nearby or anything, I could have just walked for a while. So.
There was a place, and when you were talking about that, I thought, I should have shared Innis Fallen. Innis Fallen is a island. It's a small island, and It's actually not too far, and I wish I could remember the name of the castle. By the way, anything that's stone built in Ireland is English. All of the castles and all of that is English. And so anyway, it was during that trip with Amantha in 2010. She took us to this island, Innisfallen, and we had to cross by boat. And so, and it was raining, of course. And so we had, and if you ever go to Ireland, make sure you take good rain gear with you. Rain pants, rain jacket with a hood.
Boots.
Yep.
Boots.
Gloves.
Waterproof.
Gloves. Because it gets rainy and it gets cold. It's damp. And so, and it was foggy, right? And so we start going to the island, and we get to the island. We disembark on the boat, and as soon as I stepped off the pier onto the land, I thought, I've been here. This feels so familiar. And so we start walking, and it gets explained to us. It was an island where teachers lived, and where their students would come. Only specific students would come to this island. And so anyway, we got to walk around the ruins a bit, and I walked into this. There's hardly any walls left. There's maybe where the wall would have been. There's kind of like a short stone wall, and it's not cut bricks. It's the indigenous stones that they stacked on top of each other.
Right.
And I walked in, and they had these. It's like benches, but they were out of stone. And I was walking around this space, and I went to stand in the front. And Minnie, I have to tell you, it was deja vu. Standing there, this life superimposed over that past life or that parallel life, teaching there. And
wow.
Yeah, so I left some tobacco there, and I said I was good. It's an island. You can't get lost, right? It's big. Right. And so I started walking around the island, and just like you, I was walking this grass path. Not many people had been on it, and I tell you what, you step out of time and space, and not knowing, okay, which way did I come in? And I could hear movement. There were deer there on this tiny little island, like they were walking in front of me. And there was some grass there that was pretty tall. It was, maybe waist high, and there was others that was almost shoulder high. And so when you're in there, you can't.
No, you can't.
And I was thinking, all right, I didn't drink or eat anything on this island. I didn't take any of the berries or anything like that. I didn't eat anything, because that's one of the things they tell you is not to take an offered drink from, because it could be a fairy. And once you have their food, because it's magically delicious, it really does take you out of time and space. Oh my gosh! But that was one of my favorite trips, because it did rain almost the entire time we were there. Get back in the boat. We were heading, I don't even remember where, but we had to take this channel up to the next stop, and it was literally in the fog. And the sun started to come out, and you could see rainbows going from the main island to this tiny island, arcing. There was
wow,
yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I think that's where we saw a sea eagle, and we saw a goat out in the middle of nowhere. And
swimming?
No, he was up high. He was like on a ledge, and he was only one, just one. And I was thinking to myself, gee, I wonder if that's Puck. And I was thinking, gee, maybe if we asked him if he could, do something for the weather for us, just enough to get us to our next destination, right? And Amantha was sitting like just behind me, and so I turned around and I asked her about that, and her eyes kind of got a little big, and she says, you don't want to ask him anything because he will demand in return.
A reciprocation, yes.
And I said, oh, okay. So I took out some tobacco and put it in the water. It's like, hopefully that would neutralize. Here you go.
Never mind.
Never mind.
Erase.
And she says that they don't see goats in that area very often. And so, yeah. In this fall.
Oh, wow.
I'm going to check the time. Cool. We only have a couple minutes left. I wanted, hopefully, Minnie, if you don't mind, sharing a little bit about something that you and I are going to be doing together.
Of course.
Yeah. Absolutely. Go ahead. If you want to start.
Oh, I'm so excited about this class because we're going to be teaching a lot of really, really fun sacred, mystical teachings, but, with a lot of joy and a lot of gaiety as well. It's been so much fun to put things together, even to create the ads and the curriculum page and, sorting hat rituals and all kinds of fun things that we're going to be doing, but we're also going to be, learning real live magic, real practical magic, I guess I would call it.
There you go. That's a good one. Practical magic. And really this is something that we had promised some people many years ago, actually, that we were going to do this class together. And this is it. This is when. This is when.
Yeah. Now.
It's now. What we've done is we've taken elements of what Hogwarts is about, and we bring them into our reality, right? And so we're going to have classes like divination, where we're going to be learning how to dowse. There is a method of divination that you're going to make for yourself. It's called reading tile, and so it's a little artwork in there. And of course, how can you not have anything about divination and not talk about oracle cards, right? So we're going to talk about that. Care of magical creatures. Minnie likes this one. We're going to be talking about totem animals, animal signs, and symbology. Yep. And then there's transfiguration. What's transfiguration about? It's about
shape-shifting. Yeah.
Yep. Shape-shifting and shamanic journey. And here's one that Minnie and I, why don't we just say that we excel at this one? Okay.
Yeah,
Defense
high
against
marks.
the dark arts. Defense against the dark
We're
arts.
headmasters in that one.
Headmasters. We're going to be talking about the very basics of space clearing, going in with no fear. And we're actually this is where we're going to fit in making our personal medicine pouches. I promised this in the Academy class, online class. I guess it was early spring, trying to figure out how are we going to do this? Well, we're going to do it in this class. Yeah, so you'll be able to make your own medicine pouch. Can't wait for that one. Lots of good stuff. Want to talk about the wand making?
Well, we're going to be, you're going to be going out and finding your own wand stick. And we'll be making our own wands, and we'll talk about different uses for it. It can be used for space clearing. It can be used for divination. It can be used for your own meditation practice as well. And then I'll be working with you in herbology, and we'll be leading you on a beautiful forest therapy walk in Neshi's amazing land there in Toma, Wisconsin. And September 22nd, 23rd should be beautiful fall colors coming. And we'll be talking about the edible medicinal plants that are growing right in the forest. And we'll be ending the whole class with a beautiful tea ceremony with those medicinal herbs that we gather on the land. So it'll be a really nice, I think, ending for our weekend to really step into the healing of nature as well.
Yeah. The course is designed to help you, if you don't have it, a good foundation to build your with your gifts, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
If you have been on this path for a while, it's a good class to be able to fill in the gaps that maybe you have about certain things that you didn't realize that maybe I should study that just a little bit, just so that I have
Right.
the basics in it. It's kind of like me in astrology. I'm not an astrologer.
Yeah.
I can't keep that stuff in my head. It's not an ally, but I know enough to be able to ask questions and to explain very, very, very basic stuff.
Right.
And then
And then
point
you
them in the
always
direction.
learn. You always learn something, when you go to a class like that. When you know a little bit, but you don't know all of it. And when you're with a different perspective and different teachers, you always learn something new. So
that's right. That's a good point. That's a good point, because we're hearing it from another perspective. And so you might be hearing something that you heard before, but now you have another facet to it that you didn't have before. So,
right.
yeah. So you can always go to Star Nation's organization's website. I'm going to get to the website here. Hang on. And take a look. We have more information out there, obviously, than what we can cover in just 2 minutes. And so
Great. We're going to be posting the full curriculum schedule too.
Yeah.
I like to put it on the Academy page, so we have that all set up now. So you can see exactly what we'll be teaching and when.
Yeah.
And it will be over the fall equinox. So magic there, 22nd of September.
That's right.
23rd will be in that energy. It'll be awesome. That's all about
the
new.
Maybe we'll end up doing a ceremony or something, huh?
I think there probably will be an impromptu bonfire or something happening. I keep seeing it. I don't know what it is, Neshi, yet, but we'll get it. Yeah.
We'll have to put Paul on that one to get it the site prepared for us. So, we want to thank you for joining us tonight for Nature Adventures. We're gonna have another adventure next month. We'll see where Spirit's gonna to lead us and where we're gonna be at next month. But so thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it. Minnie, do you have any parting words for us?
Just know that if you find yourself in a sacred place, give yourself permission to do ceremony, even if you didn't plan it and you didn't bring all your stuff. Let your inner guide, your inner intuition, tell you. It might just be something, you create a circle with stones or shells at the beach or whatever. But give yourself permission to do impromptu ceremony when you feel pulled to do that. Listen.
Yeah. When you hear the call, answer it.
Yeah.
When you hear the call.
Yeah.
And good. So with that, we'll see you again for Nature Adventures next month in September.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone.
And with that, good night, everybody. Have a nice
night. Yes.